Hello, everyone. I'm Jean-Claude at BeyondMystic, and welcome to today's special report. The title is Are You Ready for 2024? With me to have that beautiful conversation and hopefully maybe answer some of those questions is the one and only Sean James. You can find him at My Self Reliance here on YouTube and also on his personal channel here, Sean James. Sean, welcome to the audience. Happy New Year, and how are you today, sir?
I'm great. Thank you. A happy new year to you as well. Nice to finally talk.
Yes, absolutely. You and I have been chatting back and forth for years. I remember sending you some pictures of the log picnic table I was building with my kids, and I was taking a page from your book in terms of self reliance and teaching real skills to our kids here moving into this crazy, crazy world of ours. So, a big thank you, Sean, for all you do. Guys, thank you so much for joining us here on the live show. It's already 1,000 live on the Rumble feed. You guys are also watching on YouTube and on Twitter. We're going to spend maybe the first 10 minutes or so here, triple casting on both networks. And I'm going to provide you guys here the links to the Rumble feed. So if you want to come and join us after that for the full no holds barred conversation. Sean, where do we start with this? I was really, well, first of all, I've been watching you for years. Big thank you to be on the show, and a big thank you for everything you do. And all the skills that you've brought to me, to my life, and how I was able to transpose that to my family as well and my kids. So I owe you a debt of gratitude for all of the work that you've been doing over the years. So first, big thank you for that. But I want to start here. Usually, when I invite new guests on the show, my first question is, how did universe conspire to have you do the work that you do? But I'm going to tweak that for you. I wanted to ask you how you got out of the matrix and happened to be living in the woods here in northern Ontario, almost at 100% self-sufficiency. Explain to the audience members how you went from Toronto to where you are now. Let's get into it, Sean.
The difficulty is always how to condense that story into just
Right.
something that can be transcribed in a format like this. I've got hundreds, or I don't know how many videos I've got on my channel describing everything, but because it goes all the way back to being a kid and just wanting to spend more time in the outdoors than it did in society and being around people. So I kind of have this connection with nature that's always drawn me. And then throughout my period, you have kind of one leg and in one life and one in the other, and one's pulling a little bit more stronger at different periods. But I guess I would probably the most relevant, I guess, for an audience is that in 2010, the financial crisis of 2008 really hit the construction industry here in Canada. And I was highly leveraged because I was in the commercial roofing industry. I had a big business in that.
Right.
And a lot of my customers started going out of business as they lost their financing on major projects. So that just dragged me down and put me completely out of business. And not only out of business, I had guaranteed through some foolish advice as well as inexperience, I guaranteed $750,000 of that debt, that company debt personally. I took that on. So that just, I mean, it just set back all of our future plans and ambitions. And then it kind of made me look back at what gave me satisfaction and meaning in my life in the past. And it was always nature
Mhm.
and simple living. So it was kind of a reboot. So it inspired my wife and I to look at our priorities and realize that food and family came first, healthy living. And let's go down that path, whether we can afford it or not. And let's just see where it takes us. And I think, like most things in life, when you follow your passion, it ends up being a positive change, and you emerge from hell. And that's what it was. Basically, you emerge from hell and you find yourself in the place that you always wanted to be,
Right.
just by following that passion. So that's where I am now. I've come full circle and back to what I like to do as a kid, and happier and more satisfied and healthier than ever.
Right. Well, thank you for that first intro. I'm showing here some of the time lapse video. This is, of course, not your first cabin, but the first one that really put you on the map. Explain to the audience members, you're at 2 million or so followers here on YouTube on your My Self Reliance channel. Where did you get that big break, and how is that connected to Star Trek? Share that with the audience members.
The big break in YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So Yeah, I guess that probably is where it really took off. So, when would that be? 2018, early 2018. So I had been building that cabin all through 2017, and then in early 2018, I released a video where I compiled all the footage of me getting to that stage. So basically, from cutting the first tree down to getting the cabin erected and in moving condition, at least dry it in.
Right.
And I made two versions of that video, one long form over an hour long, and then I think a 3 minute or 5 minute time lapse version. And that time lapse got picked up by George Takai on Facebook
Hmm.
and published that and promoted it. And I think the last time I looked at it on his page a few years ago was at 240 million views or something like that. Like
Right.
just insane. And then everybody picked it up, ABC and DIY Crafts and Popular Mechanic, like everybody was just, sharing that video. So, like, yeah, it is. Yeah, I forgot about that actually. That is where it kind of
Well,
took off.
the only reason I mentioned that, first of all, I'm a Trekkie and I watch all these Trekkie podcasts, and he was the one that kind of put me into you. I had
Mm,
seen some of your videos before, but I never subscribed because I watch all of these outdoor channels.
yeah.
But once he did, I took a second look at you. I'm like, oh wow, that guy's in Canada. He's another Canadian, and so I really started paying attention to everything you're doing and falling in love with the way you are portraying this lifestyle. And I think maybe we could start here. Um, Explain to the audience members, what is it you tried to do at the beginning of the channel, where perhaps it went,
Yeah.
just because of the nature of the eyeballs that were coming towards you, and perhaps now where you want to go here in 2024. Explain to the audience maybe that evolution there in your mission for that channel.
Yeah, I kinda started off on making online content. Like, when I lost the business and we were starting over, I thought, "I'm gonna document this on a website." So I had myselfreliance.com as a website, and my goal there was just to help people, navigate the difficulties that I went through, a lot of it being financial, business, how to brand yourself and how to, I don't know, just kickstart your life. And just through that process, it's funny how you get these little trails off to the side. And I kind of went down this trail where I started writing articles for Ontario Tourism and like paddling magazines and just doing more outdoor content like fishing and
Right,
canoeing and so on. And they started to get some traction. And I thought, this is actually a path that maybe I should continue on like making content
right,
rather than trying to teach people, because trying to teach people when you don't have obvious life experience that you can describe, I would say, properly. Like,
right,
nothing worse than a self help guru that's never been through tough times themselves or doesn't have the life experience.
right,
Like, I don't want financial advice from a 20-year-old who just got out of school. I want it, I want
right,
it from somebody who went through a bunch of market downturns and had some
right,
failures. So I
right.
thought, I don't feel authentic going down that path. So I'm just going to share my life and
Mhm.
share what I'm doing. And a lot of it was outdoor related. Then I thought, this is really what I want to do with my life. I want to get back to this. Great that I'm documenting like growing a food and things like that, which I was, but I wanted to build an actual life in the wilderness, like I always aspired to do, and what I tried to do in my early 20s. So
Right,
I started documenting that, and that's what really resonated with an audience. I think you know, sort of there's not quite like the back to land movement that you saw in the 60s, but it's more of a move to self-reliance because we're all watching all these systems break and
exactly.
how society, the pressures of society, the pressures of a modern life, the illness, mental and physical illness that it's causing.
Yeah.
And I think that's just a real draw now to get back to nature and back to a simpler life and just take more control of your life instead of putting it all in the hands of some entity.
Right. And where do you want to go here in 2024? I mentioned this because during the holidays, I watched this last video of yours here. 2024 is going to be a lot different. And you struck a chord with me. You talked about the fourth learning and a lot of subject matter that my audience are very familiar with. And I'm like, okay, I have to invite James on the show. We have to have this beautiful conversation. So explain the difference here. I brought the links down for the YouTube channel here and also on Rumble in the description box below, guys. If you want to follow myself around, so find the links there and also the Sean James channel. First, explain the difference between the two channels, what the different missions are, and where you personally see and why it's important for you to start speaking out, as you said here in this last video, moving into 2024. Explain the impetus for all of that, James.
Yeah, I think I've got a bit of a romantic spirit where I like showing the beauty of nature and the beauty of the simple life. So I've captured that. I think the essence of that on my self-reliance channel. So I don't talk typically on that channel, or
Mhm.
if I do, it's at the end where people can decide to skip that or not. And probably 60% of people don't want to hear me talk about how they could do better in their lives or
Right.
what I did to improve mine.
Yeah.
So I sort of had to end up separating the channels for that reason. So my self-reliance stayed sort of more cinematic, more polished. I edit it with like music or more nature scenes and so on. And then on my Sean James channel, I like to explain what I'm doing, give some tips on not only just how to do self-reliance menial tasks, but also the philosophy behind it. What from relationships to many deeper facets of life, like what's been successful and what's caused failures for me. So I'd
Mhm.
like to share that on the Sean James channel. So what really has happened is through this process of just being me and wanting to live a more natural life, I ended up becoming more prepared than I didn't it wasn't it wasn't my goal. I wasn't setting out on this journey or sharing this journey to be more prepared necessarily, and I wasn't doing it just to create YouTube content. I was building the life that I wanted to build, and I realize now that, especially when the events of 4 years ago happened in March to myself, my family, and everyone else around the world, I found myself actually not impacted. Like, I saw other people, not even the other YouTubers who just make a point of creating a YouTube video in order to make income off of YouTube. So they have to, come up with content every week. I'm just documenting my life, and my life didn't stop. I was able to continue to
Right.
document it from the place that I already was. So I could just continue to share it. But it was a real eye opener. Like, okay, this is what can happen. I already learned my lesson in 2010 when the business failed. And I personally took on that responsibility for the failures and also for my life going forward. And then to see something like that happen, not just to me, but to everyone around the world in 2020, it's like, okay, I guess I'm prepared and I guess I should start sharing that message. But then I don't know, watching all the compounding crises around the world in finance and environment and social unrest and political system, there's just so many crises seem to be converging, particularly right now. And we know there's an organization that's kind of pushing that forward. And that,
Don't go too fast. We're still on YouTube. Hold on a second here. I appreciate that, and we'll get into all of that for the audience. Hello to a few people here from Ontario. I see Vancouver, Pennsylvania, Cornwall, England. Well, you guys are great. Southern California, South Africa also. Thank you everyone for watching here today. Um, Let me get into this. In 2008, before we switch over just to Rumble here, it was kind of my awakening too. So I kind of went through the same process at the time. I was a lobbyist. I had worked prior to that as the chief of staff at Queen's Park in Toronto. So
mm,
the political mindset, drinking all the Kool-Aid, doing the corporate thing at the political aspect level. And in 2008, it kind of opened my eyes like, oh, something's wrong here. We live in a Ponzi scheme. I need to prepare for my family here. Things are not what we think it is. And so I went on this long track on one hand of being a hermit, trying to learn about the real world as opposed to what was being presented to us on the 6 o'clock news. And I knew about mainstream media, I knew about the spin doctors and all that, having worked in that field. But
mm,
then coming at it from an alternative media perspective really, really opened my eyes. So I went into all of these deep rabbit holes, and it was quite a fascinating journey, scary one at the same time, too. And I went through the process of mourning a lot of my friends that were
mm,
no longer friends, mourning the reality that I thought I knew, and to then
mm,
have to revisit this new reality. And I think you've done a great job doing that same thing too. And when those events you just mentioned occurred, at that time, I had reinvented myself in internet marketing. And all my clients were restaurants, gyms, bars. So within 2 days, they called me like, JC, you got to
yeah,
cancel the contracts, man. The government
yeah,
shut us down. So I'm like,
wow,
fuck, here I am. I have to reinvent myself one more time.
yeah,
And at
yeah,
that time, to me, it was like, okay, I spent all of these years also learning all this esoteric content. I'm like, how do I share that with the audience members to bring them to another self-awareness and maybe another self-reliance through that empowerment of that information? So that was kind of my trajectory in all of this. So thank you, James, for your adoration. That was beautiful. So yeah, so I think this is a good time because there's a lot of touchy subjects here. We're going to drop, guys, the YouTube feed for here. Let me bring down the Rumble link again in the live chat so you guys can come and find us there. There you go. The link is there and also in the description box. Okay, so you guys on YouTube, you can either find us now on Rumble or on the Twitter feeds. Let me remove that.